Hello there. Poland prepares to play dirty in its sovereignty battle with the European Union. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please do press that little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. Now, as you may know, sovereignty battle lines are being drawn up between Brussels and Poland, with the EU on one side determined to impose the supremacy of its law on the errant member state, and Poland on the other determined to show that EU law is inferior to the internal sovereignty of a member state. And with high stakes like that, Poland may in the end be left with only one choice: cave into Brussels' total control or leave, a Polexit. Although what Poland is looking for is continued full EU membership and to be in receipt of other EU member state taxpayer funds as a net recipient of cash, but on Polish constitutional terms. And the driver behind this is that the Polish government is rearranging its judicial setup in a way that favours government, something Brussels says goes against the EU rule of law requirements. But Brussels just restates its position that there are no accommodations, just the supremacy of EU law via the treaties and enforced by the European Court of Justice, the ECJ. And it was just that battle that led to Brexit, after the UK realised that its Prime Minister, David Cameron at the time, had no clout to change even a comma in EU law after his failed attempt to try and renegotiate with Brussels. Now, I do admit to having reservations about how much control the Polish government will have over its judges going forward, with talk of a disciplinary chamber that could allow Warsaw to punish judges for getting out of line. Sounds like a throwback to the good old days of the USSR. But is that a matter that should be the preserve of the people of Poland, or is it something to be governed by all the people of the EU via the EU Commission and the ECJ, even though they don't live or vote in Poland? Now, for those pro-EU Remainer rejoiner types out there who will inevitably side with the EU over this, don't you think it's hypocritical to bleat about rule of law where Poland is concerned, while the whole bloc tries to align itself for trade with China, while Germany gets into bed with Putin in return for some gas? Now, for those that think this is a completely one-sided game and that Poland has no cards to play, well, think again. But before I get into that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all my Super Thanks, Patreon and PayPal supporters, as well as those that do buy a mug, with my mug on it. Links in the descriptions box below. You really do help me keep this channel going. Now, although the EU Commission can withhold about £60 billion in EU taxpayer funding from Poland, it still relies on each member state to back its projects, such as its green policy. And here is where there are rumblings that Poland might play the dirty Remainer by staying in the EU and obstructing the bloc's green agenda, with the Telegraph reporting that Polish MEP Professor Ryszard Legutko, who is also a political theorist, saying that Poland could bring the Brussels policy-making machine to a grinding halt in retaliation for any move to punish Warsaw. And this would include the flagship Net Zero Carbon by 2050 programme. The havoc Poland could wreak would be immense. Now, some will point out that Poland could end up having its EU voting rights stripped away using Article 7 of the Lisbon Treaty. And this is already being used against Poland. The EU Commission started that process a while ago. But as I understand it, to strip Poland of its membership rights, such as voting, Brussels would ultimately require the unanimous backing of all the other 26 member states. And Poland does have allies within the EU. And all it would take would be for one of these, Hungary for example, to not go with the EU flow, for Poland to retain its voting powers and be capable of holding the EU's net zero carbon policy to ransom. But one point to note is that a Poland supporting EU member state could show its position by abstaining in such a vote. But under EU Council rules, abstention does not prevent a decision from being taken. Meaning, abstention would not prevent the EU stripping voting rights from Poland. So it would have to be an active vote against any such proposal. At the end of the day, this is a battle between two sides arguing who holds the sovereign supreme position, and one or the other side will have to cave in because both sides can't be supreme at the same time. And there will always be a clear winner, even if a face-saving botch job is rolled out. But if the European Union is seen to be weak or lose in this battle, then where next for Brussels lawmakers and judges? How can Brussels impose itself so thoroughly on its member states if its Court of Justice agrees that the member states are in charge? This is one conflict that Brussels cannot afford to lose, otherwise legal cherry-picking will ensue, so tearing the whole EU edifice down to the ground. But on the other side, if the EU member states do back the slapping down of Warsaw and then impose full budget and membership sanctions on Poland, then they are agreeing with and reinforcing the supremacy of Brussels and the ECJ over their own legislatures and courts. How could Germany or France then argue that Poland's constitution is inferior to the EU, but that theirs are superior to the EU? Remember, the constitutional courts of both Germany and France have already ruled that Brussels' legal reach over them is limited, and they're not the only ones. Now, one advantage that Poland has is, like the UK before Brexit and like 8 other current EU member states, it has retained its own currency, the zloty. It has not joined the Eurozone, something that would give it flexibility should the route to a Polexit be pursued. Compare that to Italy, which would have to extricate itself from the Eurozone and the European Central Bank, as well as from the clutches of general EU laws and treaties. Although that is limited because Poland does not have a permanent Eurozone opt-out. Only the Danes now have that. But no doubt, given the Polish support for EU membership, Brussels probably thinks that a Polexit would never occur. So it's just down to how they enforce their rule over Poland and get it to align its judicial arrangements to EU norms. But Poland as a nation is not a pushover, and if the Polish people feel they are being dictated to, then anything is possible. After all, as I've said before, the Polish have lived under the iron rule of the USSR and know exactly what living under a dictatorship looks and feels like. It's not over until the corpulent, self-identifying person warbles, and there's no sign of that quite yet. So what's your opinion on Poland? Will it cave in or Polexit? Please like and comment below.